don't rush to sell your business, right? Particularly because it can be the biggest financial transaction. Spend the time understanding. I love what you said about it's a game. It is absolutely a game. It's nothing more than that. Just learn the rules. The rules have changed a bit in the last few years, but they're still the same game. You just need to learn the new rules. And then if you understand how that all works, then you can still create the outcome, still create that sort of life-changing exit if you
Yeah.
choose to.
Yeah, very cool. Just one last point on that, because again, in the kind of the heyday or the glory days of private equity, when there was much more returns to be had, the average, so an LP that invests, so basically a high net worth, a family office or an institution that gives
Yep.
money to private equity and says, go and do some great deals for me. Originally, they were looking at kind of like a 4-year term. Was sort of the average back in the 80s, I think. It was around 4 years. There was this very clear arbitrage to get to the markets. Now the public markets are pretty much the same as the private markets on valuations in a lot of cases, and so that whole liquidity premium has all kind of all but disappeared. But equally, now when I get pitched private equity deals, often they're like 8 to 12 years sometimes.
Yeah, the average is exactly 10. And you're right. It's you have to lock into these longer term runways. Exactly.
That's a big
You know,
ask.
yeah, it is. And what's interesting about it is, I mean, some of the big firms, the El Cattertons, the Blackstones, that their best performing funds are around that 8 to 10 year mark.
Mhm.
And they're just doing the same strategy but for longer, and they're consolidating for longer. So it's less of a flip and more of a consolidated play. So the business I mentioned before, and this is a good
Is that
example.
out of
So
choice or just because it's taken?
um,
Yeah, there's less
you know what I put it down
available.
to?